every time you heat food in a microwave, every time a plane lands safely in bad weather, every time your weather app warns you about a storm, you're being protected by a secret box that was once locked inside top-secret World War II labs. It started as a weapon to find enemy bombers in the dark. It helped win the war, and then it quietly moved into your kitchen, your car, and even the phone in your hand. This is the story of the hidden World War II technology that became part of your everyday life.
Look around your life for a second. There's a microwave in the kitchen. There are planes drawing white lines across the sky. Your city has traffic radars on poles, and the weather forecast shows colored blobs of rain sweeping across the map. If you drive a modern car, it may warn you when you're too close to the vehicle in front. Some doors in supermarkets open as you walk toward them, as if they can see you. All of those things share a quiet ancestor. Not a famous tank, not a bomber, not a general, but a heavy metal cylinder, about the size of a coffee mug, bolted inside a radar set in World War II. It had a strange name, the cavity magnetron. Most people in 1940 had never heard of it. Most people today still haven't.
In 1940, Britain was in trouble. Nazi bombers were crossing the Channel at night, cities were burning, and German U-boats were strangling ships in the Atlantic. Britain had an early form of radar already, tall towers along the coast that could see approaching aircraft, Imperial War museums. But these systems used long radio waves, with antennas as tall as buildings. They were powerful, yet crude. Long-wave radar could see big formations of planes, but it struggled with detail. It couldn't fit inside a small night fighter. It couldn't create sharp pictures of the ground. And when U-boats surfaced in the dark Atlantic, they were hard to find. Inside a university lab in Birmingham, two young physicists stared at a different idea. Their names were John Randall and Harry Boot. Wikipedia. Their mission sounded impossible. Make radar smaller, sharper, and more powerful by shrinking the waves themselves. Shorter radio waves, microwaves, could reveal more detail, but nobody knew how to generate them in high power. Randall and Boot began experimenting with a strange metal block full of hollow cavities shaped like a many-chambered donut. They connected it to a magnetic field, fed electrons through it, and hoped. At first, it was just a piece of metal on a bench. Soon, it would be called the device that won the war.
In early 1940, after months of trial and error, the lab finally came to life. When they switched on their latest prototype, the meter needles jumped. They had done it. This new cavity magnetron produced hundreds of watts of microwave power at a wavelength of just a few centimeters, Wikipedia. That doesn't sound dramatic, but it was a shock. Traditional radar tubes could barely reach tiny power levels at those frequencies. This small device was suddenly 1,000 times stronger than anything the Americans had in that range. With these microwaves, radar antennas could shrink from giant towers to dishes small enough to fit on ships and planes. Microwave radar could see submarines against the dark waves, spot aircraft at longer range, and even draw rough pictures of the ground at night. The magnetron went from lab curiosity to military treasure. Britain was desperate. They had this miracle device, but not enough factories or money to build thousands of radar sets. So they made a risky decision. They would give their best secret to another country.
In September 1940, a small team of British scientists boarded a ship for America. The mission had a boring name, the British Technical and Scientific Mission. History remembers it as the Tizard Mission, after its leader,
Sir Henry Tizard. Inside their luggage was something far from boring, a single, precious cavity magnetron. American radar engineers were struggling with low-power microwave systems. Their tubes produced just a few watts. When the British opened their case and placed the magnetron on the table, one historian later wrote that they had brought the most valuable cargo ever to reach American shores. Tests proved it. The small British device blasted out kilowatts of power. Within months, U.S. labs and factories were copying and improving it. Radar sets based on this hidden technology started rolling off production lines. They were installed in night fighters hunting bombers in the dark, long-range patrol planes scouring the oceans for U-boats, and ships navigating through fog and storms. The magnetron had leapt from a Birmingham table to the noses of aircraft across the world. But its journey wasn't over, because in one American lab, a quiet engineer was about to have a very strange snack.
His name was Percy Spencer, Limousin MIT +1. He had grown up poor in Maine, taught himself electronics, and now worked at Raytheon, a company building radar systems with the new magnetrons. In 1945, Spencer was standing in front of an active radar set, testing a magnetron. He reached into his pocket and realized his chocolate bar had melted. It wasn't a hot day. Nothing else in the room was warm. Curious, he tried again, this time with popcorn kernels. They began to pop. He placed an egg near the magnetron. It exploded. Spencer understood what was happening. The microwaves pouring out of the magnetron were exciting the water and fat molecules in the food, shaking them so fast they created heat. Instead of just revealing things at a distance, this hidden radar technology could cook. Within a year, Spencer had filed patents for the first microwave cooking device. The earliest microwaves were enormous, costly, and used in restaurants and ships. They weighed hundreds of pounds and stood taller than a person. But over the next decades, they slimmed down. By the 1970s and 80s, millions of homes had small, cheap microwave ovens. All because a radar engineer's chocolate bar melted next to a cavity magnetron born in the dark days of WWII.
The microwave oven is the most obvious way WWII technology reached your kitchen, but the magnetron's influence goes much further. After the war, civilian aviation authorities realized that radar could dramatically improve safety. The same kind of microwave radars that had once scanned for enemy bombers were now used to watch civilian aircraft in the sky, guiding them into crowded airports and through clouds and storms. This is how air traffic control radar was born. Soon, radar screens and control towers were tracking every flight around major cities. Pilots no longer flew blind into bad weather. Controllers could see where each plane was and keep them safely separated. Microwave radar also became a powerful tool for studying the weather itself. Meteorologists use surplus wartime radar sets to watch rain, hail, and storms. Over time, these systems grew more advanced. Today, when you open your weather app and see a colorful radar image of rainfall sweeping across your region, you're looking at the grandchildren of those early WW. But let's come even closer to your everyday routine. You're driving down a highway. A small device on the dashboard beeps to warn you that you're too close to the car ahead. Or maybe your adaptive cruise control slows down on its own as traffic thickens. Inside those systems is a tiny radar. It sends out short microwave pulses, waits for the echo, and calculates distance and speed. Just like wartime radar sets, but shrunken into chips. Speed cameras on the roadside often work the same way, quietly measuring how fast cars pass by. Automatic doors at supermarkets use small radar modules to sense when someone approaches, triggering the doors to slide open.
Even some smartphones include miniature radar sensors to detect hand gestures or presence. Wi-Fi. Perhaps the strangest part of this story is how ordinary the technology has become. In 1940, the magnetron was so secret that a single unit was guarded like gold and hand-carried across the ocean. Governments wrapped it in classification stamps, locked it in crates, and built underground labs around it. Today, its most visible form sits on a countertop, covered in fingerprints and pizza sauce. We barely think about the microwave oven. We toss leftovers in, press a button, and walk away. We complain about airport delays, forgetting that radar is quietly keeping thousands of flights from colliding in the sky. We glance at animated weather maps without realizing that they are radar pictures our grandparents would have considered science fiction. We drive past speed cameras, through automatic doors, and under highway warning signs that all depend on wartime ideas about bouncing radio waves off distant objects. A secret device that once changed battles now changes lunchtime.
Why does this story matter? Because it shows that the line between war and peace is not as sharp as we like to think. World War II was a time of terror and destruction, but it also forced scientists and engineers to push the limits of what was possible. The cavity magnetron was born to help night fighters find bombers, to guide ships through darkness, and to protect convoys from submarines. Those same capabilities, seeing what eyes cannot see, turned out to be incredibly useful in peacetime. They made flying safer. They improved weather forecasting. They gave us new ways to cook. They allowed us to build a world of wireless signals and sensors. Of course, not every wartime invention has a happy second life. Some remain tools of destruction. But stories like this one remind us that even in dark times, humans sometimes create things that can later serve ordinary people in quiet, helpful ways.
Next time you hear the soft hum of a microwave, see a radar map on the news, or watch a plane disappear into clouds only to land safely, remember the hidden box inside those systems. A metal tube with cavities and magnets. A spark of microwaves born in a desperate war, carried across an ocean in a suitcase, and discovered all over again by an engineer with a melted chocolate bar. From coastal radar stations to kitchen counters, from U-boat hunting aircraft to the weather app on your phone. This is how a hidden WW2 technology became part of your everyday life. And chances are, by the time this video ends, somewhere in your home, that technology is humming right now.